You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. Doesn't look like we have any of those. So let's get started where we left off yesterday. Sorry we cut off in the middle, but Garrett, what's going on? Wait. The setting's probably not right. Bang, 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 bing, bang, bong, Garrett.
Part two. Ryan, I was wondering if you could kind of preemptively discuss
Just kidding.
leading up to Sunday's game versus the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
If you could kind of highlight the Titans offense
Sure.
versus the first 2 weeks of the defenses they faced, and how well did those defenses grade out in the NFL and ranking? And also, I'm really curious. I feel like Indianapolis had a better offensive group athletically and just how their grades have been in the past. I don't really think Titans really have much.
Oh, my Lord.
Other than Pollard, who is a threat out of the backfield to catch passes. I just really don't know if Tennessee's really got a better offense than Indianapolis. So I know Tennessee's defense is probably way better than Indianapolis, but I just wonder if you could kind of break that down a little bit and kind of just lay it out numbers-wise what we're really looking at going into against Tennessee. So I'm out.
Well, let's take a look here at the current DVOA of, first of all, Tennessee, which right now ranks, where are they? What the heck is going on here? Click defense for, on accident, I click defense, and I'm like, wait a minute, why does it say Tennessee is as good as they are? Let's try that again. By the way, Green Bay Packers third-ranked offense, despite Jordan Love having kind of a mediocre day week one, and Malik being our quarterback week two. But Tennessee currently ranks 24th on offense. Compared to, let's say, the last two offenses we faced, the Indianapolis Colts are sitting, where the heck is Indy? Surprisingly, they're sitting at 10th. So that's a heck of a thing. And who the heck else did we play? Oh, Philadelphia. Philadelphia ranks 7th. So, according to DVOA, you're looking at the 7th and 10th best offenses. Now, keep in mind, that rank includes playing the Packers. So, if hypothetically the Packers' defense was the worst in the world, then the Titans would be significantly higher as well had they played the Packers. But still, your point is more or less correct in terms of the fact that Tennessee ranks so low. And the reason I go to DVOA is kind of to your point. Regardless of their offense, their production, their output, whatever, the teams they've played have not been very good. Don't forget, Tennessee Titans, all this talk about how great the Titans' defense is or anything else, I don't know. They went up against the Jets and the Bears. Now, as far as their offense, you could say, well, they've had some tough sledding and whatnot. Again, I went to DVOA for a reason. But that defense, I mean, Chicago's one of the worst offenses in football. I can't say the worst with Carolina floating around. Hasn't even got to 10 points on average per game. But even the Jets, listen, the game last night was great. Aaron Rodgers and that Jets team as a whole looked fantastic, competent, on the money, disciplined, everything, the whatever. Rodgers played terribly in week 2 against Tennessee, and the rest of the offense did as well. I mean, not everybody, but it was kind of ugly. And maybe you can attribute some of that to the Titans if you want, but I'm not massively impressed. We'll talk about them tomorrow, kind of go in detail. It's very similar to the Colts, where it's like they got this one guy, But otherwise, I mean, really, as you sit here right now, just, accepting that the Titans are good because that's what everybody's been saying, because that's what I've been doing, just like, all right, Titans are good, I guess. How many guys on that defense do you really know that are good at football? I mean, I had one name that came to mind, and again, I looked into it for tomorrow's podcast. He's not having a good year, and even last year wasn't great. I mean, really, there's not much. The bottom line is you probably don't know many, and if you do know many, then you don't know a lot that are doing well, and I can promise you that because I looked at it. So even if you can name a bunch of their players, they're not doing great. I mean, Harold Landry's doing decent as far as the pressure and sack statistics, which is important. But corners, linebackers, safeties, defensive tackles, any other edge rusher, not much going on. So, yeah, I mean, look, that's the problem with it being only week 3. There's just not a lot to go off of, right? Even if you looked at the Jets and thought you kind of had a beat on them, you didn't. If you thought you knew the Patriots, I mean, granted, you knew that they sucked, but we still have a lot of learning to do. I can't properly assess the Titans because I can't properly assess the Jets and the Bears, really. So, yeah, they have not played very good teams, and they've lost to both of them. And I shouldn't say the Jets aren't a very good team, but they played one horrifically bad team, one team that's maybe good, but they had a bad day. And that's about it. And they're 0-2 against those opponents. So, I don't know. I'm feeling much more confident. The big question mark for me, again, is Malik, assuming he plays. Just hoping that we can get some kind of a miracle again out of Matt LaFleur, just calling a fantastic game, but we'll have to see.
Part 3. So, before the season started, if you had asked me, just from watching camp and everybody, what they had talked about, I felt more confident in the defensive line and the ability of what this team could possibly do in the pass rush. And then I would have said, with the new influx of Cooper and Hopper, that the linebacker core was definitely better than it was last year. The question mark to me would have been, how good are the defensive backs? I know that the safety group was a huge improvement before we even saw it on game 1, but I would have ranked the defensive backs on for Jair and especially Stokes being questionable as being possibly maybe the weak link in the defense. And so far after 2 games, Quay has been very unimpressive, and that's discouraging.
Well, let me just say, first of all, I understand the question mark as far as Stokes. What I don't understand is, I mean, we're coming into this season, and you're telling me that you were more certain about rookie linebackers than Jair? Because you said Jair and Stokes as being like the question mark. I just feel like the level of dislike and distrust for Jair is shocking. Jair is a guy who had a down year last year, and by down year, it means like what, top 32? Like it's, I don't understand. Like Quay has always been terrible. McDuffie we like, but he's never graded out well at all. The linebackers are bad. They've always been bad, and we added a bunch of rookies. So I feel like that should have easily been the biggest question mark. Along with, but even with Stokes, if you don't like Stokes and you assume he's bad, then you got Valentine. We're kind of right back to where we were. And, not that Valentine's great, but I feel like he sets a decent enough floor. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the linebackers will get better, though, as time goes on and we get to see these guys progress and actually play would be nice.
Very unimpressive. And that's discouraging. I want to see the guy do good, but it's discouraging. So I'm really kind of curious to how, with game 3 versus the Titans, how this defensive line is going to fare. How is this linebacker group going to adjust, or are they going to put different guys in different positions? And are they even going to consider maybe putting Bullard in the slot versus Keyshawn, who also hasn't been playing super great?
No.
So
Bullard's a safety. He's doing a good job as a safety. He probably sucks as a slot. It's not going to happen.
I wouldn't have guessed it playing out like that. Right now, the defensive backs to me have been by far, number 2 with, obviously X and the safety group being number 1. And, I just hope they can get after the ball because LVN is just MIA for the most part. And I don't know what's going on with Preston, but, it just seems like they are just underwhelming right now. So I hope that they start figuring this out. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just LVN and Preston. I mean, it's Rashawn and it's Kingsley and it's Kenny and it's maybe not Wyatt. I don't know what he's at through 2 days, but and Brooks and Wooden. Like, have you heard their names once this year? I don't think I have. Maybe they just haven't played as much, but Slayton. I mean, the bottom line is 0 people have done a good job along the defensive front, period. So I think the DBs as a whole have done a good job. I think the linebackers and the defensive line have not. And again, we'll see if week 3 can change some things. It's a pretty rough offensive line and a non-mobile quarterback, but I'm not as convinced as some people that that's 100% the explanation, and once that changes, everything's better. I don't know that I buy that, but we'll see. We'll see. I hope it gets better because I have a hard time believing everybody's just going to have their worst year all year. So we'll see.
Hey, Pack Daddy. Sorry for all the calls, but up until this morning, since Sunday, there haven't been any podcasts for me to listen to, and so I haven't really wanted to call in until today. I'm just down getting ready to start listening to them. So please forgive me if some of my calls were outdated or anything, but I wanted to address the Bears game just real quick because I was watching the whole game and streaming you the whole time live and everything, and that was really cool. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. But Caleb Williams to me seems like he has all the athletic talent, but he has no toughness. And I think with a lot of these players, there's some that do if they went to the right program and had the right coaching. But for me, for him, I feel like he was probably pampered and he has no mental toughness whatsoever. And for that, I just think looking at some of the players walking off the field after he had missed open, I think it was DJ Moore who had one there in the fourth quarter where Caleb threw it short and out, and it was not where it needed to be. And DJ Moore was just laying on the ground. I thought he was hurt for a second. Then you could then tell by the body language, he's getting up. He is completely disgusted and frustrated. Yep. And I'm telling you that you don't lose that feeling of having that happen to you in the game over and over and over again. It's tough to get that chemistry back of feeling optimistic that your quarterback's going to make the throw. So if these guys are not optimistic about Caleb Williams and they lose their confidence in him, then I think their play is going to suffer also. Roma Dunze struggling through injuries. He didn't look so good out there. He looked pretty frustrated too. So I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I don't see it in Caleb Williams. Maybe he turns around, but man, that last quarter was brutal to watch, man. He just looked like he got bent over like a rag doll. So, cheers to the Texans. Let's hope that, Indianapolis, even though they're limping into that game with many more injuries, than what we even had to deal with them, let's hope that they can figure something out and just run on Chicago with Taylor and protect Richardson and get after Caleb. So let's go.
Yeah, I think this is a big game for them. They're actually underdogs against the Indianapolis Colts, if that gives you some idea of how bad things are. It is in Indy. It does mean something. There's no doubt about it. I just listen. If he's going to be a good football player, he's going to have to do it. The point is, I agree with you. I agree that things are really bad as far as his demeanor, the city's demeanor, the staff's demeanor, the other players' demeanor. I mean, it's going to be hard to pretend. It's going to be hard to put on a happy face and be like, everything's going to be great. If you fall to, I mean, forget the record. I mean, 1-2 is not great, obviously, but you can be 1-2 and be okay. But if you fall to 1-2 and your quarterback, even if they win, if the quarterback doesn't look good, things are going to start to spiral. And part of it is Caleb, because similar to what I thought when I saw that video of him and CJ Stroud, where he just was kind of like, okay, like, why are you talking to me like this? Like, I'm a great quarterback. I just don't know that he's going to be able to handle it very well if the perception of him becomes, I just don't think he has it. I don't think that's going to go very well for him. Plus, he's going to be battling with that internally, trying to keep his own belief in himself. I'm not even going to say the Bears need to win. I think Caleb needs to have a good game against this defense. They just have to. It's not a very tough defense. They should be able to figure it out, especially with Malik Willis just doing what he did. I mean, that kind of is the bar for him. He's going to have to be able to do that. And if he can't, why would anybody feel positive about anything in the future? But let's take our first break. We'll come back, and we got some Kyle from Madison coming up.
Ryan, what's up, man? It's Kyle from Madison.
What up?
How are you? Very good, sir. Very good. I hope you are emerging from your, the Peanuts character that has the storm cloud around him.
Yeah.
Follows him around. I forget his name, but yeah, that's how I feel when I have technical difficulties with like computer stuff, and listening to you just kind of crestfallen about your technical difficulty, and for good reason, man.
Well, this comes on the heels of getting a bunch of feedback that the podcast yesterday had all the bad audio, which actually happens a lot. I just usually catch it so you guys don't hear it. That or just delete it and say, screw it, I'm not doing a podcast today. Again, I'm trying not to just complain every single day, but even as I'm doing this, if I bump this thing next to me, I have to reset all my settings. It's just like, I feel like things have just gotten old and we're to a point where things aren't working. But yeah, I think that happens usually if I pull in audio. I don't think it's happening right now. I don't see it on the thing here. I hope it's not. But if I play like PC audio, sometimes I think it causes some problems. And I think with pulling in all the YouTube stuff, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to like ask the robot what that is, because I don't know how to describe it. Like, I don't know, it's all robot-y and stuff, and this doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about. Plus, it's gonna be like, what do you mean by that? That's freaking rude. Like, is it like you got a problem with being robot-y? But yeah, dude, it sucks.
Sorry, yeah, deal with that, and yeah, that just sucks. So I hope you can gut it out and power through and get things working. So feel for you, man. Now, what I'm about to say is not rocket science, and you talked about it this week on one of your shows too, and we've talked about it before, but every year, here we are, okay? And that is, guess what? Young quarterbacks, 90% of the time, need a year minimum to sit. I know. What a revelation.
Yeah.
But each year, we continue to see teams bang their freaking head against the wall not doing this. And I don't understand. I understand in cases where the coach is on the hot seat and they gotta, prove it this year, they might be out and that whole thing. Like, for example, now maybe this is the case with Sean Payton. I don't know. I talked to my cousins who are Broncos fans, and, they seem to think he's probably got at least another year after this before they start thinking about canning the guy. But here they are, forcing Bo Nix in. I think, why? I don't understand it. Will Levis, Caleb Williams. Every year it becomes more apparent to me that the fact that the Packers don't have an owner is going to become more and more and more advantageous to us with quarterbacks as the years go on. Because each year the pressures mount on ownership, single person ownership teams in the NFL. And so each year it's going to be less and less likely that teams are going to be able to sit these young quarterbacks. And now with Stroud last year, I think it's just like everybody's chasing this golden goose that really hardly happens, where the guy comes out and plays. That being said, I'm not going to be awfully surprised if McCarthy ends up being a better quarterback than Williams for this reason. Now, he may not be as talented as Williams, but his injury, well, you never want to see a guy injured, is going to save the Vikings from being forced to put him in later in the year. He is going to have to sit this whole year, and he's going to benefit from it. So anyway, just get your thoughts on that. It's madness.
I agree, and I don't know. You mentioned this has happened to you, evolved over the last couple of years, and I'm kind of in the same boat. First of all, I don't know that we really had to think about it all that much before. It was just something that was never really done. I don't say never, but like Rodgers is just some weird outlier. But everybody just starts right away, and most of them are bad, but some of them are good, whatever, and you just kind of go about your business. But you're starting to see the fruits of people sitting and learning. And you're also really starting to see a lot of very talented people come out and just play terribly. And I don't know, man. I think it's I don't think it's as definitive as a lot of people make it. I think there's a lot of young, talented people that come into the NFL and play and are bad because they're bad. And they could sit for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it wouldn't make a difference. However, I do think, and it makes you wonder throughout history, who you could have put on this list, how many people could have sat for a year, 2 or 3, and been a good quarterback? And I think Jordan Love is honestly one of the best examples of this. And granted, maybe he could have played for 3 years and then just popped off. In other words, I think he would have been terrible as a rookie. I think he would have been terrible in year 2. Maybe that progression would have just been seen and he would have ended up just being great. But I think it's probably more than likely that he just wouldn't have been, and it would have just been bad, and he probably would have even got benched. Can you imagine? I mean, look at what's happening with Bryce. Think about that. Even if that is a scenario where a guy is that good, how many of them are going to not get benched before then? Bryce was a number 1 overall pick. He made it 1 year. 1 year and 2 games, and he's benched. So not only are we not willing to develop Bryce Young on the bench, we're not willing to develop on the football field. You get 1 year, and if you suck, you're done. Now, listen, I'm not sitting here saying I think Bryce is going to be a good quarterback. He's probably not. But could he have been if he was able to develop? Probably not, but maybe, because I do think, let's just put it this way. Let's say there's 100 quarterbacks, and they all start and they're all terrible. How many of them could have gone on to have great careers if they were allowed to sit and develop rather than get into the NFL and, just start to develop bad, I don't want to say bad habits, but, low self-esteem, I can't do this, and just fears of being hit and whatever else, it starts to develop in you. This cancer takes over. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, I don't know. But whatever it is, it's there. And the other thing is, it's not just quarterback. And I know nobody's going to bench like an offensive tackle for 2 years to let him develop. Like that kind of stuff is just not going to happen unless by accident or you draft a guy and he has to develop because he's kind of further down the depth chart or whatever. But yeah, I don't think Fields would have ever been a good quarterback. I do wonder a little bit about Caleb. Obviously, he may still end up developing into a great player, but I think the biggest fear if you're a Bears fan has to be that every single one of these bad performances, every single one of these times where he's not making good decisions and the offense has to dumb everything down for you, not to mention your offensive line can't protect you and your wide receivers despise you. And like, it's creating a terrible environment rather than, let's just say they decided to bench him and develop him. Let's just say. Now, all the heat's going to fall on the team. The fan base is going to be furious because they're going to be losing a bunch of games with this backup piece of garbage quarterback. Actually, they'd probably still be 1-1. Who knows? Maybe they even be 2-0. But in the meantime, every single wide receiver is like, man, I wish that guy was playing. They'd be talking to you like, man, I can't even imagine. Just think how good this team's going to be, you know? The fans are screaming your name while you sit on the bench. You just feel like a king. You feel like a god as you sit there, just believing that you could do so much better, and you are so much better, and you're tearing it up in practice. And, you know, all the while you're actually developing and you're learning the offense and all that kind of stuff. But whatever, this is the way it goes, and I'm not mad about it. You know, if the Packers are one of the few teams that actually has the ability and the patience to pull off things the right way, then that gives us an advantage over the other 31 teams, or at least most of them. Again, I give kudos to the Atlanta Falcons for doing exactly what I think makes a lot of sense. You get a developmental quarterback with a lot of talent, and then you go out and get a guy like Kirk Cousins, and you say, we're going to win, and we're going to win in the short term. I mean, Kirk's been terrible, but I mean, the thought process makes sense. And in the meantime, we're going to be developing this guy to be our future and learning behind Kirk Cousins. I love that. I think that's great. And you know what? If he ends up just tearing things up and it's like, dude, he's got it. He's got the offense down. He is going to light the league on fire. Then screw Kirk. Let's do it. It doesn't have to be 3 years, but we're willing to be patient for 3 years, let's say. I think that's great. I think that's probably the right way to go.
Okay, part two is a question for you. Now, I'm hearing that, and it's early in the day, so maybe this isn't true, maybe it is, but I'm hearing that Love is practicing today.
Yes.
My question for you is, would you rather have Love, you know, with some increased injury risk and maybe at 70% out there, basically handing off the ball, making a couple reads, or would you rather say, nope, we're not risking the entire future of the franchise with a knee that's less than 100% stable? Let's put Willis out there, take our chances, and go from there and see if we can give Love another week. Now, that's assuming maybe he's even, you know, I love the fact that if he is practicing today, I love that. That really makes it hell for the Titans to prepare. Yeah. It really does, because you couldn't be more different, the two game plans that you're going to have to do, you know. I'm leaning.
So the answer's, to me, it's very simple. He's not playing. No chance. Week 3, we're 1-1. We're playing one of the worst teams that's out there, you know, bottom 10, bottom 15, whatever. Bad football team. Not a divisional opponent. Playoffs nowhere even in sight. No way am I risking anything with Jordan Love over this game. If it was a playoff game, sure. If it was playoffs on the line, sure. If it was next week against the Minnesota Vikings, probably shouldn't. But it's at least worth debating. This is not worth even debating to me.
I don't know. I think it's possible the Packers could win this game. I think the Titans aren't a good team. And I think they could maybe win it with Willis. So I guess that's probably the side of things that I would come down on, is if you can get him another week of rest, you're looking at what, like, you know, 3.5 weeks of rest then if you get him back for the Vikings game. But I love the fact that he can actually practice now, so legit opponents need to prepare for both Willis and Love. And those.
Well, yeah, and the point that I made last week was that, you know, they could try to pretend that he was going to come back against the Colts, which they did. Colts weren't buying it. There's no reasonable human being on earth, sorry to those that thought he was coming back, said he was going to come back. Now, this week, and this is what I said last week, at least you have somewhat of an argument. It might not be the best one, but it's possible. And the benefit that the Packers have is he can move around on it. That's not going to damage his knee. So what do you do? What do you do if you're, again, trying to pull all the tricks out of your bag to win a game without your starting quarterback? Well, aside from the game plan that you try to put together with Malik that's creative, which is going to be really difficult because, again, you kind of emptied the bag last week. You force them to prepare for Jordan Love as best as you possibly can. Make them prepare for two different quarterbacks. So you make Jordan Love practice. It's not going to damage his knee. You just have him go out to practice. You throw some shoulder pads on him. You say, oh, he's going to play. Watch out, boys. He might actually play. This is real. I'm just saying. And again, he might play. I'm not saying he isn't, but it would be absolutely stupid for the team to not do everything within their power to make the Titans think that Jordan Love is going to play.
But I love the fact that he can actually practice now, so legit opponents need to prepare for both Willis and Love, and those are just such different game plans. Looking a little bit bigger picture from what we talked about after Love went down, I had said the basement that we would need to achieve would be one of 3 games with our backup. So if we went 1-2 over the course of, let's say, those 3 games that Love would miss, possibly, that would be like the minimum what you probably needed to do. Now that would put you at 1-3 with that Philly loss, but that, to me, that was the minimum requirement. We have now done that. So now it's like, all right, let's say Love doesn't play for 2 weeks. In my mind, you're trying to go 1-1. You're with playing with house money. You're trying to go 1-1, and you get Love back at 2-2. Anything, I mean, that's already gravy. But hell, if you were able to win, both of them, I mean, now that's just a pipe dream. But seriously, can you imagine if he comes back and we're 2-2? That would just be absolutely fire. But I'm interested on your thoughts on that because I'm just a little squeamish. It's like a season-altering injury versus a career-altering injury. We dodged a bullet on the career-altering. I just want to make sure that dude is right. And I think the Packers will do right by him, but just wanted to know if you had your druthers, what would it be? All right, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's really straightforward. You cannot in any way risk the long-term future of your quarterback. You just cannot do it. He needs to fully heal. And it's not even just like, well, he might be done for his career or anything 5 years from now. It's even the future of this season. If his knee does not fully heal, and can you imagine bringing him back to win some useless Titans game, only to have us go, we get into the playoffs, but he tweaks his knee because it didn't fully heal, and now we don't have him for the playoffs. Can you imagine how angry we're going to be looking back at some stupid Titans game? A team that's probably got 5 wins by the time the playoffs roll around. It's going to be infuriating.
Daddy!
Hey!
He's back. He's at practice.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means he's going to play or not. And I don't really care. I'm just happy that
It's great news either way.
There's progress and the light is at the end of the tunnel and it's near. So that's 1. 2.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you had told me, a week ago that this is likely to go out till, week 6 or week 7, it's like, maybe that sucks, but we'll see. Now I'm looking at it, and, he may not play next week against the Minnesota Vikings, but it's certainly looking very likely that he does. And certainly by the week after that, I think if he doesn't play in that game, it's like, okay, now you guys were really freaking lying. That's crazy. But it also would mean that his recovery time is actually quite slow, which would be kind of scary. So, yeah, I mean, it's great news that he's able to be up and practicing and looking good. And even if he doesn't play this week, a lot of optimism for him coming back to play the Vikings.
I think you all are talking about it. You were talking about potentially doing a game. Is that going to Green Bay? Or I didn't know what exactly you're referring to with the whole crew. But I'll tell you this, man. I mean, I grew up in that town, and we just have to say the word, and it's on. I mean, it's all the way on. Bring it. Let's set some times, let's set some dates, and let's just go howl at the moon with the whole damn gang. That is all, my man.
What did I
we
say?
March.
I never know what I said. I don't know. Maybe that was the other guys who were talking. Or maybe I said something. I don't know what I said, but are we talking about going to Nashville or to Green Bay or what are we doing? Somebody tell me what I'm doing so I know.
Hey Ryan, Steve up in the last man. How's it going?
Oh, you know what? Sorry. Hey Steve, why don't we take a break and come right back and hear the rest of your thoughts? I apologize.
Getting down to the nitty gritty for my season, so I haven't been calling in too much. But I figured I got to call in on this one. I was just listening to First Things First, and Nick Wright. That's a Jesus looking guy on the show. He's a big Caleb Williams supporter.
Yeah, he is.
He's talking about the Bears like going to the Super Bowl with Caleb.
Oh, he cracks me up now because now that things are going south, man, he's like a typical Bears fan. He's just coming out with all the excuses.
Williams this year, some crazy nonsense. But after these first 2 weeks, he's had to rework his opinion. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you've already put it on the show, but he is now saying that originally he was saying Caleb Williams was going to this amazing team and he had all this incredible support. Now,
right,
since he's played so piss poorly, he's saying that, maybe he doesn't have such a great team. Maybe the offensive line isn't so good. Maybe he doesn't have all this great support and coaching around him. And it's just crazy to listen to a guy backslide. I just listened to him say, hey, from week 1 to week 2, he made substantial improvements. But we all know week 1 was so bad that if you were just average in week 2, just average, it's a substantial improvement over week 1. Yeah. You made a huge leap forward from no touchdowns and 90 yards. If you get 150 yards and no touchdowns, that's a huge improvement. What ridiculousness is this? Okay? I'm not going to say that Caleb Williams is going to be bad. I'm not saying it. I'm not doing anything of the sort. But I am saying that the Bears are bad with quarterbacks because, Justin Fields isn't like lighting the league on fire, but he looks confident and solid in the Steelers system, and he never looked like that in the Bears system. So this is hilarious. I hope you do a marvelous laughing at the enemy that just tears the Bears apart. But yeah, I'm not even going to talk about this next week's game or last week's game or any of that because we're in our own little limbo to see what happens. But man, the Bears thing is just crazy, and I don't understand why people try so hard to make this team or that team seem like they're something, and they're not. They're just a bunch of buffoons. Just a bunch of buffoons. All right, go Pack. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Well, that is the frustrating part because look how quickly and easily they turned on everybody else. Like, excuse me, why were you hyping up the Bears when you're so easily convinced that the offensive line is terrible? Why are you doing that when you're so easily convinced that the offensive coordinator is terrible? Why are you doing that when you're now suddenly convinced that maybe Swift isn't the second coming of Adrian frickin' Peterson for some reason? It's kind of shocking to me that everybody was so convinced that a guy who has never played a snap of football in the NFL in his entire life is going to take the NFL by storm because we want it to be true, and so we're just going to make up that everything else is going to be great. I mean, really, what did they know? They knew that DJ Moore was pretty good and that Keenan Allen had been good on other teams and would probably be good, and they drafted a receiver that nobody knows if the guy's any good at all. Right? Just like they drafted a right tackle last year that, everybody assumed was good, but I guess he didn't turn out to be that good, right? These things happen all the time. So if your belief in this team is so tentative that you really don't like anybody, but we're going to pretend that everybody's great. Oh, improved offensive line, which is just completely made up. They went out and got this running back, which is a thing they say that doesn't mean anything. They went out and got what? Is he good? Is he better than what you had? No, we don't need to talk. They got a running back, and they improved their offensive line. And they have one of the best wide receiver units in football. And Caleb is generational, and really that's the only part that matters. If they didn't have Caleb, they wouldn't give a crap about any of the rest of this, and they wouldn't be making excuses for people like Swift and this offensive coordinator and everybody else talking about how great they are. That's all just fodder because, well, we just choose because we want to believe it. This is the bottom line. And so when things go south, we immediately start throwing everybody else under the bus, which doesn't make it better, right? Like, well, Caleb couldn't possibly because what? How does that make anything better? All you're doing is defending Caleb, but making you still look like an idiot. Because why did you think they were going to do so well with this terrible offensive line? Why did you think they would do so well with such a terrible running back and a terrible offensive coordinator and a terrible offensive line coach? Why is it you thought this would be good? I don't understand. You're the one that said it. Same with Bears fans. Well, it's not Caleb's fault. Okay, fine. Even if we say it's not, even if we pretend that every single bad thing that he did was only because he's under pressure, and he's never done anything bad when he's not under pressure, and every bad thing he does under pressure is exactly as bad as everybody else would be. There's no way to handle that and make a good thing happen. Like, none of those things are possible. Let's just assume that. Fine. But you still said the Bears would be good, and they're not. So explain that to me.
Hey, Ryan, Jamie from Janesville again.
What's up?
Just calling to kind of put an idea in your head here.
Okay.
How much fun would it be after the season if it goes the way we think it's going to go with the Bears? To do just a full recap of how crappy it's been for them for the past 6 years.
It's crazy.
Like a full, just in-depth drubbing of how bad that organization sucks. I think that'd be a fun one to listen to. Have a good rest of your day. Go Pack.
Well, you're putting a thought into my head about a laugh. And listen, if things go south with the Colts, this may have to happen. Because here's, just piggybacking off the Steve from Alaska call, here's the attack strategy. Lay out this history that is abysmal. And then ask the question again. Why on God's green earth did you think this team would be good at football? Why would you believe in Caleb and the offensive line and the offensive coordinator, the offensive play calling? Why would you believe in this group to make all the right decisions, to get the right head coach, who gets the right offensive coordinator, who brings in the right offensive line coach to actually fix the offensive line? You pick the worst quarterback team of all time and assume that they're the ones that are going to figure out who the best quarterback is. Why? Looking at just the worst team over the last 6 years, would you expect this team to be good at football? Shame on you.
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
Home of the big buck.
Oh, okay.
10 pointers. Even Brett Favre came to Southern Illinois to hunt white-tailed deer.
Okay, then.
Sorry
to...
That leads me into an explanation to maybe what Musgrave did with his first white-tailed deer. Here, the tradition is that you slice open the deer after you've killed it, and you take a bite out of the heart.
Okay, yeah.
And that is your rite of passage.
Okay.
So while Dan Campbell might be biting people's kneecaps, Luke Musgrave is eating a pumpkin heart, man.
Okay.
So I hope you're right. I hope he takes off and runs like a deer in this next game against Tennessee. And we'll see what kind of warrior markings he's got on for the game. Maybe he'll start wearing a deer antler around his neck. I'm out.
Well, I hope that's not a requirement. I would hate to think that I came up with that whole big conspiracy, that whole big thing, only to find out that it doesn't work because he didn't bite its freaking heart. But yeah, I hope he did that, I guess.
Hey, Ryan, Aaron here.
Hey.
So I don't like to complain about things very much, but I'm going to complain about some things very much today.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So why do fans think that they know more than the team or the coaching staff or the doctors or anyone around the Packers, right? Like, I can't go on social media and see anything involving Jordan Love or anything involving the Packers or whatever saying, oh, don't rush Jordan Love into it. Why would you play him this week? Because you're obviously rushing him into it. And it's just like, dude, do you really think that if Jordan Love wasn't good to go and play,
right,
that they would not play him? Or that they would play him if he wasn't ready? Like, really? The Packers? Really? And then you also get the people that are like, oh, yeah, just let Jordan Love sit because I want to see the Malik Willis revenge game.
That's ridiculous.
I don't even know Malik Willis, but I know his personality. I could have told you well before he said it that he has no angst, no negativity, no frustration with the Titans. Like, the dude...
Also, I just think that there's... I'm not trying to come out and just say the guy is garbage. He did a great job last week. You understand, though, that's not just like what he is. That was a very limited handful of throws that he executed well. You give him 30 attempts, it's probably going to be a problem. I understand Matt LaFleur's a wizard and all that. Okay, let me ask you this, though. Matt LaFleur with his play calling and everything else, is Jordan Love better? And has Jordan Love and the Packers had bad games? All right, then stop it. The idea that Matt LaFleur can just make everything's great and everything's going to be fine. All kinds of bad games. And Jordan Love's had bad games, even as a good quarterback, and so has all the great quarterbacks. Malik is, by all accounts, a horrifically bad quarterback. I'm really sorry to have to say that, but he is. And I think some people saw last week and they're like, oh, we're going to be fine. He's going to cook that team. If he can do that again, that would be shocking. And I think some people, they saw him do it and they're like, well, he can do it now. That's just it. It's over. He can do it. No, I think that's very similar to me saying pump the brakes on Sam Darnold after he had a fantastic game. And sure enough, the next game was not very good. And I don't anticipate him to have a ton more of those amazing games. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm basing that on the fact that usually he's not very good and he has a couple good games sprinkled in. Malik had a good game. I don't think if he plays one or two more games that he's going to be really good in both games or one game. This is, in my opinion, a guy that, assuming everything else works, assuming, number one, there is a run game, which there was. Titans have a very good run defense, so that could make things complicated. And assuming Matt LaFleur has all these trick plays and the Titans aren't prepared for it because they just watched it happen last week and the way that they utilize, assuming everything just works, it's still very unlikely that he executes at such a high level again. But what happens if, for example, our running back is kind of beat up from last week and we don't want him to carry 30 times? And also, we're not able to carry as much because the run game isn't working. And now we have to treat him as a drop-back passer, and that's not great. So stop it with this, like, I just want to see him play the Titans because I think he's going to be aggressive. He's going to want to tear him up. But he can want all he wants, which you're right. He doesn't want to get back at the Tennessee Titans. He has no ill will toward them. But even so, it doesn't matter how much he hates them. It's irrelevant. I don't know. I haven't actually seen anybody say that, but I've seen people complaining about people saying that. And it's like, I hope I don't ever see that.
He is just a good, solid human being that his personality really doesn't make sense to a lot of people in our culture of just being thankful for the opportunity that the Titans gave him. I could have told you that he wasn't going to be that. This would not be a revenge game for him. I mean, for him, it's just oh, cool, I would get to play against my old team. and that would be that. Like, he wouldn't like have aggression or a chip on his shoulder. And I don't know. It just bothers me. It's like, what makes fans think that they know better than the team? Right. Like, and first of all, if Jordan Love's healthy, why would you not want him to play? Like, I get it. Malik Willis played well, but why would you not want Jordan Love to play if he's healthy? I don't understand our fan base sometimes, Ryan. Sometimes we just don't make sense. Like, I don't know, man. Like, we're 1-1 right now. We're doing well. We're just, I don't know. Anyways, that's just what I was going to say. Just had to call and complain about our fan base, which is over the last couple of years has proven to be ridiculous at points. But anyways, peace out. Bye. Go back, go.
Yeah, and to your other point, you're also right about that too. My preference is if he's not 100%, don't put him out there. But I don't understand the new, like, I would have to sit down and talk to a doctor about these things, like the Packers are, and really say, like, where is he at? What is, if they say he's at like 90%, like, okay, what does that mean? What is the risk of re-injury? You know, because you got to remember the risk of re-injury for that, even in a game, is probably quite low with a brace on. Because the specific injury that he had is to a ligament, and the ligament's job is to create stability of the knee. The way that you would restrain the ligament is if his knee was strained again in a similar way. If you're wearing a brace, though, it prevents your knee from bending and straining in certain ways. So, I don't know. I really don't. There may be some talk about, if he does that, there's a slight chance of re-injury, whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is, I agree with you. I think if they play Jordan Love, I'm going to be happy. Even if they play Jordan Love and say he's 90%, because I agree with you that they also are not going to do something to damage Jordan Love. They're not going to think that this game is more important than him potentially re-injuring it, whether it's this year or some other time in the future. They're not that stupid. So if he's playing, I believe that it's because it's the right decision for Jordan Love. If it was the Vikings game or a playoff game or something, I would maybe be a little bit nervous again, because I don't know for sure that they're doing this because they're 100% sure there's no negative repercussions. But as somebody that doesn't have all the information, I'm going to trust that they will have the information and will make the right decision for Jordan. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Appreciate all the calls. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.